Hello, this video is intended for students who are going to be taking the PSAT, and this video specifically instructs on the math section of the PSAT. To get started, the math section has two different modules. Module 1 is 22 questions for a total length of 35 minutes, and module 2 is the exact same 22 questions for 35 minutes. So your grand total is you are taking 44 math questions and you will have 70 minutes to complete the questions. Questions are arranged from easiest to hardest as you take the test. The topics covered on the PSAT are these 4 topics. First, there's algebra, which involves linear equations, linear inequalities, and linear systems. Second, there's advanced math involving absolute value, quadratic equations and functions, exponential equations and functions, polynomial equations and functions, rational equations and functions, and radical equations and functions. Third, there is problem solving and data analysis, which involves ratios, percentages, distribution, 2-variable data, and probability. And last, geometry and trig. This involves area, volume, angles, triangles, trig, and circles. So that is a grand overview of the PSAT math section. Let me switch now to the app. Give me one moment. All right, so this is totally new for the PSAT. They are now using this Blue Book app. If you look at the top of the screen, it says Blue Book. It's got this blue star. And on my computer, it's a blue background with a white star for your app button. And I want to point out that everybody who is taking the PSAT tests this year, you would have already had this app. They pushed it out to you. You might need to see technology, the help desk in the library, if you don't see it on your computer. So another thing I want to point out to you is I am able to talk with you about the test preview here, but there is a full-length practice test that I highly advise you run through, where you will get to see a full, all of the different types of math problems, so you can actually practice 44 math problems and see how they start off easy and get more difficult as you go. So anyhow, I'm going to get us started here by clicking test preview. So we're going to run through this, exploring the Blue Book. We can take our time as we do all of this, and I'm going to show you all of the buttons. So I'm going to click next, and then I want to do the SAT suite of assessments. One thing to note, that since the PSAT is going to be on your computer, you will be provided scratch paper. And for math, I highly recommend, when they are describing images or they are setting up equations for you to solve or expressions to work with, that you do use the scratch paper. All right, here we go. I am actually going to skip through. So the first part is all of the reading and writing, and that is not what I'm here to talk about. I am a math teacher, not an English teacher. So I'm going to click ahead to get to the math section. Here we go. And next, and that module is over. Yay. All right, here we go. In the top corner, it says section 2 math. These are the directions. I do want to point out, and I will point this out later, that part of your math test is multiple choice questions, where you have to pick one of the options provided. But the other part down here is for student produced response questions, where you will solve the problem and enter your answer as described below. So for instance, There can be problems that have more than one correct answer, and you enter only one of your answers that you get. You don't answer both. You can enter up to 5 characters for a positive answer and up to 6 characters for a negative answer. If your answer is a fraction that doesn't fit in the provided space, enter the decimal equivalent. If your answer is a decimal that doesn't fit in the provided space, enter it by truncating or rounding at the 4th digit. And if your answer is a mixed number, such as 3.5, enter it as an improper fraction, which would be 7/2, or its decimal equivalent, 3.5. Don't enter symbols such as a percent sign, comma, or dollar sign. And then they give you this table showing you acceptable ways to answer with 3.5 and unacceptable ways, and you will not get credit if you entered it in these ways. Same thing for 2/3 and -1/3. I'm going to close this now. I'm going to point out to you at the top, there is a calculator button on the top right, and this brings up a calculator for you. You can expand it and you can enter lots of things, lots of different functions. They do not have to be, it doesn't even have to be a function, but it does not have to be solved for y as it would in a graphing calculator. So for instance, I could enter x squared plus y squared equals 4. And you guys should know that's a circle, which is not a function. But you can enter equations here. We'll come back to this later as I'm showing you the few problems that they do have us practice here. But you might want to get familiar, click on the Blue Book app and get familiar with the calculator here. You do not have to use this calculator. You are welcome to use your graphing calculator that you've been trained on in a lot of your math classes at Kirkwood High School. This reference sheet provides you with some silly formulas that you should just be obvious by now, but just in case you forgot the area of a rectangle, it's here for you. Same for triangles, circles, some volume, your special right triangles are listed, and then they remind you of some basics about the degrees in a circle and radians and in degrees, and that a triangle adds up to 180 degrees. So that formula sheet is there for you. There is this more button, and one thing that might be helpful for you is to see the shortcuts. I don't know that that would be helpful, but maybe. So if you needed to zoom in or zoom out, that might be helpful for you on your computer, but I figure most of you already know these. But feel free to take a look at all of the different shortcuts there. All right, so let's get started actually doing a little bit of math. So here is number 1. It says the scatter plot shows the relationship between two variables, x and y. A line of best fit for the data is also shown. Then here's the question, at x equals 32, which of the following is closest to the y value predicted by the line of best fit? So I come across the x-axis to 32. If I go up to where the line is, that is a little bit higher than a 2 for my y value. So I'm going to choose option C and click the next button. Number 2, two nearby trees are perpendicular to the ground, which is flat. One of the trees is 10 feet tall and has a shadow that is 5 feet long. At the same time, the shadow of the other tree is 2 feet long. How tall in feet is the other tree? To solve this problem, I highly recommend you draw 2 right triangles on your scratch paper. The first one having the tree being 10 feet and the shadow across the ground being 5 feet. And then when you set up your second triangle, you're going to have the shadow being 2 feet long. And knowing ratios and proportions and similar triangles here, that means that that tree has to be 4 feet tall, because in the other triangle at the same time of day, if you double the 5, you get the 10. So I'm going to choose option B and click next. Ooh, all right. Here is a student produced response directions. So this reminds you of how you can type answers in. Based on what this is showing me, you're allowed to shrink the directions there. And question 3 says the y-intercept of the graph of y equals negative 6x minus 32 in the xy plane is 0, y. What is the value of y? Well, you guys should know y equals mx plus b by now in all of your math classes. So therefore, our y value is negative 32. I'm going to type that in and click next. Question 4. This one is talking about figure A and figure B are both regular polygons. The sum of the perimeter of figure A and the perimeter of figure B is 63 inches. The equation 3x plus 6y equals 63 represents the situation where x is the number of sides of figure A and y is the number of sides of figure B. Which statement is the best interpretation of the 6 in this context? Well, since y, the letter y, represents the number of sides, and we should know by now that regular polygons have all sides that are congruent to each other, that would mean that the 6 is the length of the sides. So for question 4, each side in figure B has a length of 6 inches. We don't know how many sides it is. We just know that it's a regular polygon. Next. Oh, this is a fun one to use the calculator for. A store sells raspberries for $5.50 per pint and blackberries for $3 per pint. Store B sells raspberries for $6.50 per pint and blackberries for $8 per pint. A certain purchase of raspberries and blackberries would cost $37 at store A or $66 at store B. How many pints of blackberries are in this purchase? So what I'm going to show you guys is you can just know how to use the calculator. And I'm going to enter a system in where I enter 5.5. I'm going to use X here for my raspberries plus $3, 3Y for my blackberries equals 37. I'm going to hit enter and I'm going to enter the next equation as $6.50 for X plus $8 for Y equals 66. And you should know from your classes, even as far back as Algebra 1, that to solve a system, you're looking for the point of intersection. And so this point right here, 4, 5, is our solution. Now remember, the 4 represents our raspberries. The 5 represents blackberries. So I'm going to close my calculator, choose option B for 5, because it does say how many blackberries, pints of blackberries were purchased. Clicking next. All right, how many distinct real solutions does the given equation have? To solve this equation, you would take the square root of both sides, which is your inverse operation for squaring. And the square root of -4, you know, is 2i plus or minus 2i, which is an imaginary number, which means we don't have any real solutions. So I'm going to choose option D for 0 and move on. All right, another problem where we are going to be entering a value that we get, whatever answer we get. I'm going to shrink the directions, talking about acceptable answers versus unacceptable answers. And it says for function f of 0 is equal to 86. And for each increase in x by 1, the value of f of x decreases by 80%. What is the value of f of 2? So to figure this out, since it's decreasing by 80%, that is the same as multiplying the 86 by 0.20, because that would mean 20% remains. So let me pull up my calculator and see if I'm able to show this. So I'm going to take 86 times 0.2, and it gives me 17.2. And then I'm going to take 17.2, because we have to do this twice, times 0.2 again, and I get 3.44. So in here, I'm typing 3.44. I am clicking next. And now it will show you if any of these boxes are not highlighted in blue, like it shows here, they are unanswered. You may have flagged a problem for review that you wanted to come back to, and you can always then click on that problem and it takes you back to that spot. So I'm going to click back through these. And when you are all finished, you are going to click next. It will let you know the module is over, that your work has been saved. And it comes to this. It says, return to the home page to start the preview again. Reminder, there are no scores or feedback in this preview. When you see this page on test day, you will know your scores have been submitted. So I'm going to press return to home. And I do want to encourage you, because I am not able to, since I am not a current test taker of the PSAT, I am not allowed at this point to practice the full length test. But you, as a student taking the PSAT test, can click on this and practice a full length test of the reading, writing, and math modules. I hope you found this video informational for you. I hope you score well on your PSAT and that you are a National Merit Scholar. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you around Kirkwood High School.